I had a major panic then because the speech was gone. Okay, I got it retrieved. Good morning, and thank you for coming to listen to my story so far. I hope you've enjoyed your breakfast, because I was too nervous to actually have anything, so I've just been piling down loads of coffee to get a bit of energy. Talking about yourself is very difficult, and I've come from a military background, and talking about military systems, weapon systems, military tactics, it's pretty easy, you know, it's clear and defined. But to talk about yourself and, you know, to go intrinsic, it's slightly difficult. So, yeah, bear with me. But thank you, Sarah, for seeing the validity in what I do down in Pembrokeshire and what I'm doing and what it means to the community and the effect it's having. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So I've just mixed up some of my images with the art and the story of what I've done in my career, just to give a bit of a flavour of the different kind of art and the way I've moved artistically. So I'm going to be using quite a lot of slides, hope you don't mind, just because art is so, it's got such an impact. I think just to be able to talk about it without showing it, I think it would be a disjustice, really. Did I say that right? Disjustice? Just try and say that a few times. So this next slide, I hope you are braced for some horrible kind of viewing. Okay, it's very, very graphic. Okay, this is me as a young chap. You know, look at the mullet, you know. My hair's not improved, you know. Gee whiz, unbelievable. But I grew up in a very small kind of insular kind of community down in deepest, darkest Wales, where men and sheep are scared. And it's been a bit of a journey. And art never really pierced the kind of life that I had, you know, coming from a council background. And, you know, if I said art to my father, he would just probably look at me for about half an hour and then move on to the next topic, like rugby or, you know, football. Being in Barry John and having that name in Wales was a bit of a hook to be able to say, you did rugby, you're a rugby player. Like, no, I'm not, you know, I don't even like rugby. Oh. So anyway, so, so I left the school after doing my GCSEs, flunking my GCSEs, by the way, and I joined the forces, and I went to, my first post was in Shorncliffe in Kent, and it was the junior leaders, and I was there for about a year, and my naivety, my kind of small-minded naivety kind of came out, and my son said to me, talking about my journey of 24 years in the forces, was kind of like Bilbo Baggins and The Hobbit. So he kind of creatively put together this kind of impression of me and my journey. So thanks for my son's creativity, yeah. It means a lot, you know. So in Folkestone, I was in training, and my naivety kind of hit in again, and we had a trip skiing to Germany. And the sergeant said, right, has anyone here been abroad? I came to attention, put my hand up. I said, okay, you Welsh Id, where you been? And I said, here, sir, England. So he just looked at me with that same kind of stare my dad would have if I said art. And I had to carry this wombat shell, which, if you don't know a wombat shell, for about an hour marching to attention like this. So, yeah, great, yeah. So my first posting was to Hong Kong, and I wanted to go to, I wanted to join the army and join this regiment, the Royal Regiment of Wales, which is now the Royal Welsh. I wanted to join them because they were going to Hong Kong as their first posting. Because I used to box, I was doing Wadru karate, was a brown belt, and I was hoping to go out to Hong Kong and maybe get my black belt. It never happened. But and of course, the opportunity to go to Hong Kong for a small lad, 16, 17-year-old from Nayland, Pembrokeshire, was an opportunity I couldn't really turn down. And this kind of first painting that I want to show you kind of shows this vivid colour that I seen as I landed into Hong Kong and seeing the bright lights of, you know, this amazing city. And for me, it was just amazing. And I wanted to kind of instantly portray that. And this series of paintings that I did from Hong Kong kind of showed that immediacy, that kind of colour and vibrancy in the nightlife that was there. This painting is a triad series. There was about 4 or 5 active triads families out in Hong Kong in 1992, and these kind of abstract paintings are showing this life, vibrancy, and the different like tribes of triads that are out there. That interested me because they were very heavily involved in kung fu and karate. This painting is called "Feel Like $1 Million." Pretty much what I feel like now, not. It's basically saying, 17, 18-year-old, first introduction into nightlife and what a nightlife it was. And I'm coming back at 5 o'clock in the morning saying "Fidey, Fidey" to the taxi driver because that was faster to get me back to camp so I can get on PT at 6:30 in the morning. So that was that painting. I was then posted to the United Nations in Korea, in Seoul, and I worked on the DMZ, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. It was an amazing posting, and it influenced heavily my art from there on because of all the graffiti that was in Seoul at the time. And the geisha girls, in the Korean geisha girls were just unbelievably amazing for me, and seeing them on the street of Seoul, and they were like kind of like owned by this Korean mafia that I was really interested in. And the paintings all touch on this kind of childish naivety that I was on the DMZ and there was a massive kind of tin shack, and in that tin shack, that's where the North Koreans and the South Koreans used to negotiate. And there was a table, and halfway between the table was North Korea and halfway was South Korea, and that's when they used to do the diplomacy. And they had this kind of like flag that they put on, the North Korean, and then the South Koreans put theirs on. And then they said, oh, that's a little bit bigger in mine. And then they put another one on. And in the end, they banned flags completely. And you think, gosh, these are countries that, rule destiny, for their people. And there they are having a massive childish spat over these flags. So I did these kind of like flags to represent the childishness of, countries, really. I moved from Korea to the jungle, Malaysia, doing jungle training, and whilst I was there, I was boxing for the British Army team, and which mainly built up on British soldiers. And I fought against the Malaysian national team while I was there during the jungle operations. Just a bit of a break, doing boxing for a bit of a break. It doesn't sound right. So whilst, sorry, where am I? Yeah. So yeah, after going from Malaysia, I had a posting then to Jamaica, and of course my art kind of changed direction a little bit. This is some of the Ghetto Boy and Fruity Lady, spinning the wheel and salute to the front. I just tested myself with more traditional techniques than abstract, and after this kind of series, I was offered to have an exhibition in Germany and in a museum in Wiltshire. And then from there, I kind of like exhibited all around the place. And that really kicked off my art. So around 10 years I've been exhibiting. While I was having my first exhibition, one of my aunties came, who I didn't really know, and she said to me, "Do you realise there's 2 famous artists within the family, going back to the early 1900s?" And I said, "Oh, who were they?" And I weren't too sure. It was Augustus John and Gwen John. So I was really interested, and I did a lot of research. And this is Augustus, and this is Gwen, both from Haverfordwest and Pembrokeshire and Tenby. So I was really interested in what they did, and I'm also Gwen John because she was in a time where males kind of dominated the kind of artistic landscape, and she was really, really powerful in what she did, and very focused. She moved to France, and she was Rodin, the famous sculptor's lover and muse, and there was lots of books and autobiographies written on her, and there's nothing really about her death. So I kind of went on a pilgrimage to try and find out a little bit about her, a little bit about her life, and I did a project following in her footsteps, and I just want to be able to show you this small little clip. I went there, did some research. She was buried in a pauper's grave that was dug up in 1960 and then moved to a mass grave, and that lifting up that ominous kind of Auschwitz kind of cellar, and it was just hundreds of bodies down there, and she was removed in 1960, dug up for the expansion of the cemetery, Javal Cemetery, and then moved to that mass grave, and that's where she is amongst probably hundreds of other bodies. But it was a bit of a pilgrimage because the date I was there was the date around she arrived in Dieppe and died in 1939. So back to my story. I was then I went to Northern Ireland in about 1995, 1996, and I was doing peacekeeping on the streets of Armagh and Belfast. And this is me and a Saxon being deployed for riots that were happening in Belfast at the time. And it was a very interesting kind of time because being Welsh and then going to Northern Ireland, and it's kind of like kind of Celtic thing. We kind of got respected a little bit more, I felt, out in Northern Ireland. And did a lot of art out there. We were working in Armagh, South Armagh, they call it Bandit Country, and this is actually a road sign like that saying "Sniper at work," just to warn and psych out British soldiers. And this one to the left is "Welcome to Bandit Country," because that's what they said. This painting on the right is like a lens of a sniper rifle, and my instructor and my section commander used to say to me, when you on patrol, make sure you're thinking like you're choosing your cover every step you take, and always think that you're in a sniper kind of sight, so you choose your cover correctly. This riot I went to, all the streets lights were off, and that's all you could see is really these buildings, and beyond it was this ominous kind of like glow and smell of gasoline and burning tires, and beyond we just knew we were going into that. And this painting, City at Night Riots, kind of it was my instant response to that. I won an award, Armed Forces Painter of the Year 2011 for this painting. So I was promoted round about that time as well, and my career kind of took me to lots of different places, and influenced my art and took me in directions I would never have imagined. I've worked with the Special Forces, lived in countries like Germany, America, and Cyprus, been a military instructor in the infantry training unit, but it was my change of role to become an army medic that had a huge impact on my future roles. I trained in clinical stress debriefing, and I was very interested in mental health and the effects of post-traumatic stress. And after a further posting to recruiting in the British Army in Wales, I started a small club for veterans, doing high-octane kind of boxing sessions, and then with fast music. And then after that, then I would slow it down with classical music, and then just engage in art, using fingers and any materials, rulers and your hands and anything, and thick paint. And the kind of results I had from that was amazing, the effect. And then, for the work I did in the community, I was awarded the MBE in 2010 on the New Year's Honours List. I just left the forces in December, and I set up my own small arts charity called the VC Gallery. V for veterans and C for the community. And I kind of using art as a way of engagement. But the VC Gallery is much more than this. I help veterans gain their confidence, held signposts for careers, courses, housing, healthcare, and other organisations that have had a positive impact on their life and what could have a positive impact on their life. With the community side of the VC Gallery, we work with disabled children and adults, the elderly, women's refuge, young carers, and the kind of aims are to have a project in mind, and with those projects, then use that as a tool to be able to get creative and with a view then to displaying the art that they've made, because having an exhibition of what they've created and promoting their confidence, their work, their self-esteem, and to bring their family in to interact with others and create networks, all while celebrating, the individuals. I feel it has a huge benefit to the people that create art and their families, and this kind of ripple in the pond effect with someone suffering from post-traumatic stress or lack of confidence, it reverberates to the family as well. And bringing them all in this kind of network kind of brings it into a small kind of family. We're all kind of tribal, and bringing this and creating this kind of VC gallery has created that. These are some of the projects I've done recently. But the topic of freedom is today for this creative morning, and it's kind of apt because I like to think I'm giving a little bit of freedom to someone suffering from something that's debilitating as mental health injuries, and using art as my champion, I feel like I'm trying to bring a little bit of freedom to people's lives. So yeah, thank you so much for your time this morning, and I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you.